Alrighty, everyone. Our hour having been met Tuesday, April 21st, 2026 at 5:02 p.m. I do apologize. We did get a little bit late to start, but we are now started. So I will call the meeting in order at 5:02 p.m. First item of business is approval of meeting minutes from March 9th. If anybody has any questions or concerns or comments, I do have at least one little bit of comment. I noticed that former committee member Paul Marys' last name was spelled incorrectly in a few places. The last name should be spelled Palmeieri. And then Dr. Bennett's last name has two N's and two T's in it. So those are my only adjustments that I had. Did anybody else have any questions about the minutes? All right, hearing none, I would entertain a motion.
Motion.
Motion made to accept.
I'll second that.
All right, first motion made by Mr. Thomas, seconded by Mr. Knoll. Josh, can you take the roll call, please?
MJ,
Aye.
Rig,
Aye.
Mark,
Aye.
Dana,
And I was not present.
John.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion was approved, and I'll get those changes made. Thanks, MJ.
Thank you, Josh. All right, so now we will move on to public comment. For the record, just to make sure, if there are folks who are in attendance who wish to make comment, please do so by indicating your name and your address so that Josh can have it recorded for our minutes properly. Thank you. Is there anyone from the public who wishes to make any comments this evening? Going once, going twice. All right. So we will move on to item D, old business. We do not have any old business this evening, so we will move on to new business. Given the importance of a couple of the items that are on here, I would ask if members would be willing to take items E dash B and E dash C out of order. The items for the Bridgewater Police Relief Association collective bargaining agreement and the appropriation.
So moved.
All right, I hear a motion made by Ms. Sullivan. Do I get a second?
I'll
Second.
second that as well.
Seconded by Mr. Thomas. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right. So, as indicated, we will move to item E-B, Order OFY 26-058, Bridgewater Police Relief Association, MCOP, Local 397, Collective Bargaining Contract Ratification. I hope that everybody had a chance to read it over. We do have Carolyn Wood from HR and Lori Guarini here this evening to elucidate any details or answer any questions that we may have on these two items. Quick note, one is the actual contract itself, the other one is the enacting legislation to perform the appropriate transfer. That'll be the one that we talk about afterwards. But that being said, I will hand it over to Ms. Guarini and Ms. Wood.
I'm on mute. Sorry. Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm happy that everyone's here today so that we can make a recommendation to the council for your recommendation, or you're not to recommend the Bridgewater Police Union and the funding of it. So this contract goes from last fiscal year, fiscal 25, through fiscal 27, and then there's another addendum for another year. I think it's a year. So, it goes through 4 years of, back and forth that the town has been working with the members of the police local and the chief. Thank you, Chief, for being here. So he can also speak to, the hard work. If I know everyone calls it work, but it was a lot of collaboration and negotiation back and forth with the union, the negotiating committee and the town. It started off with Mr. Dutton and Miss Williams when they were here. So it's been going on for, a little bit, but it was once Justin got on board, we had some difficult concessions based on, where we had started out and what the climate of the town is heading towards. So, the members of the police association and its committee again were, very mindful of that. And, we give them a lot of credit for hearing the situation that's going on in town. And I think this budget season is really highlighting what we've been talking about. So we'd like to thank them all for working so hard, and Carolyn, our HR, and Justin, and the chief. So it was a lot of collaboration getting this modest contract. I know any increase at all is never considered modest, but we feel that, out in the market and out in other surrounding communities and comparable communities, that this is a really conservative contract and a good contract for the town and for its members of the association. So, I can turn it over to the chief if you'd like to hear a little bit more from him. And then we can go through the details with Carolyn, of the major changes. But yeah, we're happy to discuss all that with you guys tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Larry, for the introduction. Chief, I forgot to acknowledge that you were here as well, and I thank you for coming in this evening to our meeting. So I'll hand it over to you to give us a little more detail as well.
So I think Lori probably undersold the work that went into it, and I don't mean by myself. As you know, the former interim town manager was here, Michael Dutton, and Justin, and during those periods, I think Lori and Carolyn both were following it along and played a major role in trying to work through difficult issues in a difficult time, right? It's an evolving, changing climate over the last 2 years. And so the reason that I'm here is basically to support it. I think the work that was done, I think it's fair for everybody. I think it's a good thing, not only for our officers here. I think it's a good thing for the department. It's a good thing for the community to come to some kind of resolution to outstanding issues. And among them is pay. But I think it's fair given all of the circumstances and all of the things that are swirling around out there. I think this is fair for everyone. So I would like to see it behind us so we can move on to the business of the day. And I appreciate the work that not only Lori and Carolyn certainly did through different town managers, but Justin, who came in and really put the emphasis at the end to try to get a fair agreement for everyone. So thank you all.
Thank you, Chief. I appreciate that. Miss Wood, did you have anything you wanted to add as well? Oh, you're on mute.
Thank you. Sorry about that. I just wanted to echo what the chief and Lori both said. This is a modest contract, but very much in line with the other contracts that we have settled with the other bargaining units. And a lot of work went into this. And I really think that this is a good contract for both sides. Some of the things that we got out of this is we were able to get new hires to a better health insurance split for the town. That was something that was really important to us going in on that. These COLAs are in line with what we did with all of our other bargaining unions. So yeah, I hope that we can support this. I think a lot of work went into it, and I do think that it's fair for everybody involved.
Thank you, Miss Wood. I only had a couple of questions. I do know other members did have some questions as well. I just wanted to get one little thing for clarification because I've seen it in other contracts as well. The concept of a differential, just for those who are not really too familiar with that when it comes to contracts for public safety, what does that typically entail and what does that actually mean? Especially where in this contract it is an 8% of the hourly salary rate for an officer.
Yeah, so that's a great question, but that isn't anything that has changed. That still remains the same as it has been, and what that differential represents is for anyone on the night shift, or I think it's the 4 to midnight and the midnight to 8 shift. There's just an 8% differential on those hours for the I can let the chief speak, but I don't know if it's shifts or whatever, but I think that's really it, right, chief?
Yeah, it's really, the difference is, what we used to do with differential was we paid it out twice a year. And so really it's just shifting how that gets paid out on a more
Oh,
regular
right, yeah,
basis.
yep.
As a follow-up, does that in any way affect the overtime or what compensation would they have for a police detail if the detail happens at night?
Well, unfortunately, wording matters. So when we refer to details, details is a separate issue. When you're referring to overtime, that's a town issue. The town issue is, yeah, the night shift differential does have impact during those hours. So it's more specific to the hours, meaning between 4 PM, any hour that's worked. So we'll have circumstances where officers could work part of a shift. They might only do a couple of hours to hold over for another hour officer, or if an incident took place, we need to hold them over. In those kinds of circumstances, it will have bearing on that, where traditionally your night shift differential was something that was paid out as a matter of whether you were part of that shift or not.
Thank you, Chief. I know one of our colleagues on the committee did send some questions along. I will ask if they want to share them again in meeting. They can do so. Mr.
Yeah, I
Higgins,
can
believe you
answer
have
some of
something?
them. Madam Chair, I can answer the questions that I did get, so, I can start with that and then,
Mm.
if they want to go into detail about it, I can further elaborate.
Okay.
So there was a question, other than the cost of the COLA and the increases, there was an increase of $100 per officer for the uniform, which currently now there's 40
43.
43 uniformed officers. And so that would be $100 each. So that would be a cost of whatever the number of employees are. There was a change from 4 personal days to add 1 more day.
Sorry,
Mhm.
Lori, can you pause for a second on the $100 change? Is that going to be retroactive? So will they get it for the beginning of the contract, July 1, 2024, or will that just be moving forward from the effective date of the contract?
This was specifically to amend it effective July 1, 2026. So that will take effect in fiscal 27. Great question.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So there was an increase of a day there. The Juneteenth was an added holiday. And I think that's been in effect anyway with the legal holiday from the state. So we just, codified that in writing. And then the increase in the details. So I know that a couple of the questions were, how much is it going to cost for the additional 2 days? So when you add employee time off, for police and fire, you usually have to cover shifts, but I don't think there's an initial or there's a great increase of cost for one personal day or one holiday. Only because the scheduling is usually done. So there will be times that there probably will be an overtime cost if somebody is covering someone and there's people out. But I think the chief and his command staff have a pretty thorough request for time off, so the scheduling can be done ahead of time. So we're looking at a minimal cost to adding that day, or the 2 days. So that's the answer for that. And as far as the details, so the details are not in the budget. They're not anything to do with the general fund. Excuse me. What police detail will be on is for, excuse me, I'm like choking. I can't even speak. Excuse me. So a detail is when a vendor hires a police presence for certain road jobs or events. So the vendors are billed and they pay the cost of the officer plus an administrative fee. If there's a cruiser, or anything else, the town will bill for that, and that actually goes into revenue under police. I think there's a fee in the revenues that we use for a budgetary line to collect the admin fees. So the town actually does make a little bit money on that. What it does also factor in is when there's a town detail, which, the town officers will get first dibs at any town road detail or water department detail, and they're paid at time and a half, and that does not change. So, well, their pay might go up a little bit, the cost of that will, be minimal as far as the town details go. So I think that was one of the questions too. So if you wanted to elaborate on any of that, I can, go on before I move ahead to the other questions.
So Lori, I would like to, or MJ through you, I'd like to follow up on that. So when you say that the cost of this is covered, so when we go out and do this, what do you throw? Do you throw in something for taxes? Do you throw in something for pension? The percentages for the health insurance benefit, for the retirement, for all that? What's the markup on the bill?
So that's a great question, John. So with payroll taxes, for instance, the town does not pay Social Security. We only pay a Medicare match, which is like 1.45, because we have the pension. So and the pension is not really, well, I guess it's based on an actuarial that the county does. And they do take into factor, salaries of the employees, because the employees make a 11%. They make a 9% contribution plus 2% over 30,000. So each employee, instead of paying a Social Security, which the town or a private employee would have to match, the town pays the retirement pension assessment, which is usually, when it's being paid, it's based on the last actuarial, which is prior year. So we're always paying a pension based on prior year. So our pension assessment that's high now, we know it's going to go up because salaries go up. But yeah, we do factor that into the budget, with the 1.45% usually when we're factoring the COLA, we'll factor the Medicare match. And also with the change to the health insurance, right now, new employees will have to pay, a 25% contribution rather than the current 20%. And this is really great for the town because, we've had almost every union except for police and fire to get to the 25/75. So, we're hoping that, this will add some cost savings to what the town pays, and looking towards the future, we're going to work on trying to get that better. But yeah, we'll always have that in our mindset, the costs of what the town expenses are, especially benefits. Health and pension is one of the big ones. So
if a follow-up question into that. So if I look at what the budget is, the wages are going to be about $30 million. The benefits, whether it's pension and health, are going to be between 11 and 12 million. So now to my question, so are we marking these bills up by the 25 or 30% for the coverage of the benefits? And then if we are marking them up, is that being put into the current year revenue, or is that being sent off to cover future pension and healthcare costs, which is part of the reason we're in the mess we're in?
Well, again, great question, John. The liability, the unfunded liabilities of the pension and the healthcare costs, that didn't happen overnight. That's been years of growing costs to each community. And I hate to say this because it sounds so, typical, but all other communities are facing it. And that's not an excuse why we wouldn't face it or why we don't face it. We are much aware of it. and, we do the best that we can to, we started, a few years back, we opened up the OPEB. We have an OPEB fund, stabilization fund, that we started putting money finally into. I'm not really sure of the date that it was, but we're gonna try to make steady annual progress by strengthening our reserves, which we're always trying to do. And when it's financially possible, we'll contribute more because they are long-term obligations. And we're regularly reviewing it. We're looking at the actuarial. We're looking at what the state is predicting and what PERIC, the state public retirement board. So we know that it's a reckoning day, and when we're talking to the unions, we try to be as transparent and give as much information as we can to them so that they understand the cost of what we're paying them reflects the cost of what the town has to come up with. So, I know it's not probably the answer you would like to hear, but for transparency and planning, we are always looking at that. And if we had a financial golden goose of money, we certainly could drop it down on it. But we're not ignoring the costs, but we're not, we can't
me
shift
ask-
that burden though. We can't shift the current
Yeah.
burden to this community as well. So
Let me ask my question a different way then, Lori. So if we have $1 in wages paid out on these details, and so based on what the budget shows me, that means we should be there's an additional 30% in cost to cover benefits, whether they be current or in the future, and payroll taxes. So that means that now we have a cost of $1.30 from $1 of wage, and then we're going to need probably 10 or 15% administrative fees. So what is our markup rate to go bill the end user? Is it $1.50? Is it 50% above whatever the payroll is? And then that extra 50% that we're billing, are we using that to fund current day expenses or putting it into current day revenue, or is it being set aside to cover some of the future liabilities of this pay?
So I just want to understand your question. You're talking about the details?
Yeah, so if we increase if the police contract goes up, right?
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
so it's going to go up, and I'm saying, okay, so now on the municipal detail rates, are we marking it up 35% or 40% to cover also the cost of the pension, the health, in addition to the raises that we're giving now and the additional time off?
So all right, I think I know what you're saying. So the details though, we're not making any revenue that's going to be put towards the future of any kind of liability. So the details are, we get a 10% administrative of what we bill out.
What do we bill out though? Is that just strictly the payroll cost, or is it benefits on top of it?
No benefits, no. So it's just like a vendor will, a funeral home will call and say, I need a police detail. We hire, the police take care of it all. They bill it. They pay the officer on the payroll, and then they bill out the cost of the pay and a 10% administrative cost. And then if there's a certain fee for the vehicles. So that revenue is a budgeted revenue every year, like based on what we're doing just annually. So there is no future savings on the details. It's not even run in the general fund. It's in and out, like when we bill it, except for the admin fee does go in the general fund. Does that make sense?
So
If I may, sorry, I think what you're talking about, John, is that admin fee, and is that admin fee enough to cover the liabilities? Is that right? Is that your question?
So yes, but Dana, based on what she just said, it's being marked up 10%, which doesn't cover the cost of the
Right, but I don't think that's dealt with in the contract, right? That's more of just like the town practice.
Correct.
No, but so we're going to go increase the contract here, And so
Mhm.
we're only going to increase what we're billing for the detail by the police contract rate, when in fact the health insurance is going up 15%. We've got the pension benefit, which is going up, and that is also payroll based. We've got payroll taxes that we're not covering. So in effect, we're confirming that for every detail we do, it's costing the town money. It's just when it's going to cost the town money. Does that make sense, or am I way off base here?
Well, I know the details seem like they're rather high and exorbitant, but I can see your point. But
Well, it's not my point. I'm trying to
no,
understand the math on this. And I want to make sure that if we're charging out for a detail, that we should be charging them $1.50 for every dollar of payroll. And that does, we've got to include the cost of the car, the policeman, everything. So if we're going to be using the police details and we're going to have them out there on the job, what is the cost per hour to have a policeman on the job? That has to include all their benefits and the equipment that they use of the town.
yeah, I don't disagree. I think that probably is a good way to make up some of those costs. But I think the details are not they're not pensionable. They're overtime if it's a town job or if it's a vendor job. So we don't collect pension. There's no benefit cost other than maybe the 1.45 percent of the overtime if it's a town employee doing the detail, because a lot of the other detail people, it's just an in and out. We just pay the fee, so it's not like a payroll when it's an out of town or a Plymouth County Sheriff or anyone. So I can see your point of the future costs, but as far as the details and the detail rate, it's really not affecting the benefits. I know we own it. We own the person because the town has hired them, so there is that liability, right? Yeah.
I don't understand what you're saying, because I mean, Chief, do we know what the total compensation cost, that includes benefits, of each police officer is, or can we estimate what that is? And that should be the rate that we're billing out, not just his payroll costs.
Well, the best way I can answer that is, remember, if we did 0 details, John, if we didn't work one detail, you'd still have that exposure and that liability for the employees, right? Because unfortunately, and I do appreciate your analysis. The one thing that's always problematic for police, unlike some of the other entities, whether it's enterprise accounts or some of the other things that a town performs, they're revenue generating. Policing is not revenue generating. And like I said to you, if we didn't do one detail, you still have that component, the benefits, right? That component still exists. We don't charge people for our services when we go out. You're only talking really about the isolated detail part of it, and the 10%. Is I can tell you, I don't know what the total number is off the top of my head, but the 10% probably doesn't cover that component of it. But if we didn't do one detail, you'd still have that. It would still be the same, essentially the same, right, problem.
Yeah, and if I can just add on that, I know what he's asking, like what's the overall rate of an employee, right? When we do for instance, the blizzard, we had to fill out a MEMA reimbursement of what the costs were for the emergency. So there is a fringe benefit worksheet that typically ends up coming out to about 15%, give or take, maybe 20, depending on the union. So I hear what you're saying. The 10% of a detail fee is not as much as. So I understand that correlation, but the details really, we don't consider them anything to do with salary and benefits and the cost to the town. We're making money when we bill it out.
Well, how about a simple rate on workman's comp? What's the workman's comp rate on a policeman's salary?
So
yeah, I'm going to let Carolyn
Yeah.
answer that.
So yeah,
that should be included in there, right?
No, actually, so the workman's comp isn't, it's one, because it's 111F for police and fire, it's actually calculated differently than your typical workers' comp. It's not based on payroll. It's more based on the number of officers that we have. Because they're paid differently based on 111F, it's not based on their payroll. As part of our policy, there's a maximum per week that's paid for an officer that we get reimbursed for. But we actually keep them on the payroll, so it's not a factor in the workers' comp calculation.
So we don't pay any workman's comp on policemen and firemen?
No, we do, but it's based on the number of police and fire employees that we have. It's not tied to their payroll. The cost of that is not tied to their earnings and their salary.
But again, should that not be, I guess, okay, all right, okay. But to me, it sounds like we're not charging enough when the police detail goes out. Because the 10% I know, that doesn't even cover the billing and administrative time of collecting the money. But
A lot of them are just 4 hours, so it's hard to like, but I don't know. How about we talk about this, come on in, we'll get a bunch of questions, John, and go through. I know what you're saying. This is municipal world and things, yeah, try to explain them as best I can. I'm sorry if it's not coming through clearly.
no, it's coming through perfectly clear. I think that we need to understand what our cost is per employee, because every dollar is very sacred. I understand right now. And I just want to make sure if we're performing a detail or we're giving it an increase on wages and everything here, that is also being passed on when we go out and take on a municipal detail, and that we do understand what the costs are so that we're passing on all the costs of that detail, not just the wage part.
Sure.
Thank you, John, for those questions. Very helpful and very informative. Did any other members have any questions or comments? Ms. Sullivan? Oh, you're breaking up a bit, Dana. Try it again.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. I was wondering why we switched to January for the increase in 2027, and then there's another July increase. So there'll be 3 increases in just about a year. And I wanted to know why we did that.
So we split the COLA in the fiscal year. So the fiscal year begins on July 1st, and then 6 months later is January 1st. So then the fiscal year's over, June 30th. So then July 1 starts a new fiscal year. So in fiscal 27, everyone, or not everyone, but all the contracts that we settled, instead of giving a 1.5 through the whole year, it was, or 2%, or we did 1 and 1. So it nets out to 1.5% for the fiscal year.
But it's for the fiscal year, but on the net for the contract, it's larger because you're doing 1 July 1, 26, 1 January 1, 27, and then another 1 July 1. And it just seemed like that was a difference than the way the rest of the contract had been structured with single.
Yeah. Right. The July 1 will start fiscal 28, so it starts a new fiscal year. So that'll be in the next fiscal.
I'm just trying to understand why we decided to split it as opposed to sticking with the pattern of just 1 every year.
Yeah, I think that's a strategic move by the town manager.
Can I jump in on that? I think part of that came from because contracts that we had settled previously that we went back to negotiate they were initially settled at a 2-2 and 2. So in order to get some of that back, we kind of met in the middle and said we're going to split that last year, that 2%. We're going to split it. We're going to give them 1% in July. We're going to make them wait 6 months to get that other 1%. So this was trying to mirror what we did with those other contracts that we had settled. And we just went back and said, okay, across the board, this is how we've settled all of these contracts. But it was because we had initially agreed to 2% with multiple unions and had to walk that back.
Thank you. That's really helpful.
I did have one additional question, Lori, but I'm pretty sure it might be something that may be more useful to the overall conversation when we get to the overall budget. Seeing how these contracts were negotiated prior to FY27, did the town manager and the finance department take a look at how this will affect the FY27 budget? Because this was being negotiated prior to, and there was a lot of work done beforehand. I'm assuming that it was probably completed well before Mr. Casanova Davis gave the budget proposal that he gave to the town, I want to say a week or so ago. But knowing that there's obviously a deficit with the budget for FY27, does this current contract with its additional memoranda allow for the budget as it is right now, or does this negatively affect what the FY27 budget proposal is currently?
That's a great question, MJ. So we did, it's one of the reasons why we didn't have the packet out over the weekend. So we updated the police budget to reflect, what they actually agreed to, and hoping that, it would be a favorable vote. So we did, we were estimating, along the same lines, this was our goal to mirror what the other contracts had settled. So we were kind of estimating, but what we did was we went into, the prior fiscal 25, we added the percents, so that we could get the rate for this current year and then what next year would be. So, I have to credit my staff and my team with, getting the numbers to the actual for the police in there. And if you look at the budget too, when you get to it, and we'll discuss this later, fiscal 26, back in last April, didn't reflect any of the contracts. We just kind of estimate, we had that wage adjustment built into our fiscal budget. So, yeah, we tried to work hard when we gave you this budget for 27 to restate what the actual 26 budget was with all the contract settlements, so that you had a true comparison when you were deliberating for fiscal 27. So great question, though. Thank you.
Thank you, Laurie. Did any other members have any questions or comments?
I do have one other question. Are all the benefits negotiated through collective bargaining, or are those something that the town controls?
We do have to bargain. I can let Carolyn speak to, we're going to continue with that.
Yeah, so all of our benefits are, there's specific plans that we need to offer based on our collective bargaining agreements, as well as the cost share, are within the individual contracts.
Thank you.
Carolyn, a quick question on that.
Sure.
For the health insurance itself overall, is our insurance through GIC or is it just through Maya?
We are actually through the Mayflower Municipal Group, so
Okay,
that's
so
the
we're still
buying
in
group that we're a
MMHG.
part of. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. When was their last review of the insurance policies by chance, do you know?
As far as the offerings, like our review of what we're offering, or
Well, I guess
Mayflower's?
what I'm trying to ask is like the obviously they do an actuarial every so often. Did they recently do an actuarial of what the actual cost for them is? I'm just speaking from experience when I was in another municipality. The actuarial study found that that municipality's insurance had to go up about 25% for them to be able to not only afford their plans, but also to be able to pay the insurance company itself. Have we had anything like that through MMHG to see what the actual increase from the health insurance companies is, so we know exactly how much it's going to go up by?
Yeah, they do it every year.
Yeah. Mayflower's good.
What was the increase for this year, though? Was
It was 10%, which was
10%?
actually, much lower compared to a lot of our surrounding communities that aren't part of Mayflower.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The
they
other
did.
municipality I was in was about maybe like 20 to 25%. So
Yeah.
10 to 15 is actually
Yeah.
pretty good considering the circumstances.
Yeah, and I can just add that Mayflower's been managing, they've been doing a really good job for most of the South Shore communities. And I think our increase would have been, I think 12% was what the Blue Cross and the providers were going up. And because Mayflower manages a fund and does their actuarials very regularly, they were able to contribute. I don't know what the number was, Carolyn, but it was probably $3 or $4 million to get the rate down to 10%. So
Thank you, Laurie. Thank you, Carolyn. Did any other members have any questions?
I just have a quick question, Madam Chair.
Okay, Mr. Knoll, what you have?
And I apologize, but perhaps this was already answered. With respect to the employee cap, I'm sorry, the employee overtime, is there a cap on that? Per officers, depending on pay scale? I'm just trying to understand, if there's a cap to that.
well, sure, their overtime rate is always 1.5 times their regular rate. That's their overtime rate. The detail rate has specific language if it's if it's a detail, I think, on like Sundays and holidays, it's double time, I think. Is that true, Chief?
Yeah, the only time a detail rate becomes time and a half, that would is with municipal details. There are some circumstances on specific holidays, not including July 4th, that it is impacted in that way. Time and a half is impacted on the details side when it's a municipal municipal project that needs to be done.
Yeah, and we don't usually do many projects on weekends and holidays unless it's an emergency, like a water main break or something like that.
And is that capped per, I don't know, I guess the example that I have in my head is if I'm an officer, with 15 years experience and my salary scale is 150, I'm just using as an example. Um, Obviously the rate against 150 is going to be a lot greater than if I'm an officer of 5 years experience and
Right.
my salary is 75
Yep.
thousand. Is that capped per, depending on officers, depending on where they're at in experience?
Yeah, I don't think there is a cap, but I
No, because legally we have to pay overtime. After their set hours, we have to pay the
Yeah.
overtime. So we can't cap it per officer.
yeah.
We can't
So
put a maximum on that time and a
Yeah,
half because
so
it's time and a half.
yeah, so
so
if it's like max 150, then if they made over, 150 or whatever that rate is. But no, we don't have a cap.
I appreciate that. I guess the follow-up question is, and maybe I didn't see it in this agreement. While there is no cap, is there a plan in place that says, overtime is available? Excuse me, overtime is available. John's at, I'm just sorry, John, using an example. John's at $150,000. I'm at 75. Um, I'm gonna go out to Rigno. Obviously, there's a cost save, I'm thinking about it from a cost savings perspective. Do we have, is there a plan in place, or is that part of the agreement that I'm gonna tap Rig Noel versus John Higgins, because our pay scale is very different? Or is that illegal to do that?
I'll
Yeah.
let the chief answer.
Yeah.
Well, I can tell you before you ever get to the question of legality, one of the most important provisions you have in your collective bargaining agreements is fairness across the board. You cannot. We have an agreement with the unions not to be able to do that. Never mind getting to the legal side of that question.
Yeah.
Okay, I appreciate it. Thank you.
So overall, then, are we looking at a 5% increase from 2025 to 2026 in the overall wages for this? And so if we do that, and then you add in a 10% for the health insurance, Lori, this is all into the 2027 budget, which is now out of balance or needs to either have cuts to it or whatever the case may be. How's the town going to afford this based on the revenues we know we have coming in with health insurance going up 10% and a 5% increase here? As an overall finance committee, how are we supposed to think about this?
So the budget that's before you includes all these costs in this contract and in the health insurance that's factored into the budget that will be before you. The increases are already in there.
Thank you, Lori. I do want to note, just for the record, I did see that the vice chair has been able to enter the meeting, and I also see the council president is here as well. So welcome to you both at 5:49 p.m. Did any other members have any questions or comments on this particular item? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve made by Ms. Sullivan. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Seconded by Dr. Bennett. Josh, can you take the roll call, please?
MJ,
Aye.
Derek,
Aye.
Mark,
Aye.
Dana,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Rig.
Rig, you're on
Sorry.
mute.
Sorry.
Thank you. The
aye.
motion was approved.
All right. Thank you, everyone. We will now move on to the other item that goes along with it. Order OFY 26-059, Bridgewater Police Relief Association, MCOP, Local 397, Collective Bargaining Agreement Contract Appropriation Transfer. This takes several budget line items of funds and transfers them into the appropriate funds with which to conduct that transfer so that the contract can be fully funded. It is a total of $254,700.00 from wage adjustments and prior year one-time stabilization to FY25. I'm guessing that's prior year retro payment, and then the collective bargaining agreement. To help fill us in on that will be the chief, Lori, and Carolyn.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So the order that you see before you is funded. This funds the contract. So it funds last fiscal year, which is already closed out. So that will be funded. The cost of fiscal 25 was $118,985 is the cost of the retro for all the members of the bargaining unit. The current year, fiscal 26, the cost of the contract is $135,715. So that is coming out of the wage adjustment account that was already budgeted last April or May when this budget was approved. There was so we're just moving from that line in our current budget.
So Lori, so that was basically put aside so that when this was finalized, this would be okay to move it from that fund to the next.
That's correct.
Okay. I did have another question. Trying to think of it. While I'm thinking of it, did any other members have any questions?
I do. So, Lori, in that account, there's $492,000 that was budgeted. You're going to take $135,000 out for this. What's the remainder in that account now? In that wage adjustment that you referred to in the 2026 budget?
Okay. I was looking up the other account, John.
I think I've got the right account down. I think when we pass the 2026 budget, there's $492,000 in there in CBA adjustments. I think
Yes.
that's what it's called.
Yep.
So what's the remainder for in here?
Hold on. Let me get that for you. Real quick. I had it up here.
Let's see. Well, I can help you with the account number 510020.
Yeah. So we put aside, thank you. We put aside 507,567. So we've already settled, we had settled the AFSCME, and you'll see another appropriation right after this that will move money for the other bargaining units that we already settled. So we started out with 507. We already appropriated in two of our previous orders. We appropriated 15,500. This order will, oh, I did it backwards, so 135, 715, 135, 715 minus. So once we appropriate the 135, 715, there'll be $356,352.
So as of February, though, none of that money has been used, right? So this
Correct.
is all in March. Okay.
Yep, and you should see that on your year-to-dates, that what's left.
Yeah, because I don't think we have March figures yet. So,
Right.
and what is the remainder of that to be used for? Or is there anything that in the works that still need to be settled?
So you'll see the order, the one right after this, it's for the non-unions, the USW and the library, that has 118,000 that we're requesting to be moved to the 48 employees who had already been settled before, that had been settled after the budget that we hadn't moved yet into the departmental line item. So once that one is goes through, then there'll be $238,294 left.
And is there anything earmarked for that?
Well, we are still in negotiations and arbitration with the fire. So, Justin is, looking at what's available, so yeah. That'll be in the budget still for 26, so we're hoping that we can settle the fire this before the end of the fiscal year.
Okay.
And whatever the cost of that might be,
Thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you, Laurie. Did any other members have any questions? I actually now remember my question that I have, Laurie, just to make sure that folks that may not necessarily be familiar with these types of budgetary orders or transfers, when a contract is agreed to, if that motion passes, then by operation of that approval, then this would have to be approved, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
To approve the contract, yeah, to fund it, yes.
Okay, excellent.
Mhm.
All right. Did any other members have any questions or comments or queries? Rig, did you have one?
No, I would entertain a motion to approve.
Okay, I hear a motion to approve made by Mr. Knoll. Do I hear a second?
So made.
Seconded by Ms. Sullivan. Sorry, Dr. Bennett, you gotta get a little faster next time. But all right, so Josh, can you take the roll call, please?
MJ,
Aye.
Derek,
Aye.
Mark,
Aye.
Dana,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Rig.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion was approved.
All right, thank you, everyone. So now that we got those two items out of order, we will return back to our original order of items on here. So we'll go back to letter E, item A, order OFY 26-057, acceptance of grant, Department of Energy Resources for the Green Communities Division. And just to give a quick overview here, it looks like we were awarded around $84,995 from DOER for various items for energy efficiency and energy savings. So it looks like there's 75,000 that's been afforded to the library for window replacement program, 2,495 for a building operator certification, and then the last item is $7,500 for a battery electric vehicle. I'm guessing that's probably the amount of cost that the tax incentive would have been on a vehicle to purchase it. But for additional clarifications, because the explanation is cut off a bit, I will try to give that over to Laurie to give a little explanation. And I know she's in a hurry because she does have the Budget and Finance Subcommittee for the council in a few minutes.
Oh, thank you, Madam Chair. So yes, you're absolutely right. There was a capital appropriation back a few months ago for a vehicle. And we were waiting for the grant to subsidize that cost of that vehicle. But Justin has plans that he can probably share with you later, so on how that's gonna go. But to get the grant, is great to get a new electric vehicle. The ones we have are about 7 or 8 years old.
Yeah, I remember like I think we still had a Honda Clarity in the fleet, and I think we have a couple of Highlander PHEVs, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Those would have been like the 3 Mitsubishi models we got, I think, in like 2016 when we just opened up the building. So it was like all part of that whole project of the
Yeah.
LEED certification for the building as well. My question would be is because Justin's not here to give us further detail on it, would it probably be best for us to hold off on this tonight, or are we okay to go forward with it?
Sure. I mean, the library window replacement too was approved in the capital. Because there were, I mean, $75,000 was not enough to do all the replacement. You guys approved on another appropriation for that, and I don't have it in front of me. But that's gonna help with that.
Okay.
Yeah, the car, I think we did have a vehicle that was in an accident, so I think that was what the replacement was for.
Okay.
So they were down one. And the inspectors used the vehicles, the health inspector, the gas and plumbing inspector, the electrical inspector, the conservation agent, even the veterans agent. So they're all using those electric vehicles and IT, so.
All right. Excellent. Did any other members have any questions?
If I remember correctly, the cost of the electric vehicle was somewhere in the range of about $60,000. So we get a $7,500 grant, brings it down to $53,000. Would it be not cheaper just to go out and buy a simple gas powered car at 30 grand?
I think that's why Justin is looking at what's the best cost for the town. So he's looking at that.
So
There's still,
yeah.
go ahead, sorry.
With that, I think that we should table this until we can get an answer to that. My question overall would be, how much do we have to spend to get $80,000 in grants? And I do remember the car has come through the capital budget. We had issues with it then. He said there was going to be some kind of a grant given, but it seems like still it's quite a bit of money for a town that doesn't have a whole lot to spend right now.
Thank you, John. Thank you for that. So I think I hear you on that too. If other members are curious about what we will hear from the town manager on that, I myself would certainly want to hear more details, especially with the cost of an EV. Even though that's sort of a small amount, and I know electric vehicles range anywhere from like $39,000 to $80,000. I want to make sure we're getting our best bang for our buck. What would be the pleasure of the committee at this point? Because I can certainly record the vote if need be.
I think we can table that. I'm not opposed to tabling that.
Okay. Excellent.
Certainly.
Right. So, then the discussion is that we certainly it looks like we're gonna table. Let me just get some stuff written down here so I can try to take the tally here. All right. Just give me a quick second here.
MJ, do we even have a quorum?
Let me check here. Me, you, Dana, that's 3. Mark is 4. Derek is 5. So we do have a minimum quorum of 5 out of 9.
I have to hop off, Madam Chair. I know there's one more wage adjustment order too. So yeah, keep going.
Yeah, okay, let's do a quick vote on this and then we can maybe like go to that. So I do hear conversation folks want a table. Is there a motion to that effect?
I'll motion.
So moved.
Motion made by Mr. Thomas, second by Ms. Sullivan. All right. John?
Oh, aye.
All right. Dana?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
All right. Dr. Bennett?
Aye.
And I am an aye. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, and that is, yep, 5-0. All right, so that's tabled. If we want a lightning round, if it's okay, for members, we can take the other transfer item out of order. Move on to order OFY 26-060 wage adjustment budget transfers. If everyone's okay with that, we can do that by unanimous consent. Is that all right?
Yes.
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 Okay, excellent. All right, so moving on to that now. It is an amount of, let's see. So that is going to be for other wage and personnel adjustments. That's for the various departments that are listed for a grand total of $118,059. And Lori, if I'm correct, these are budget transfers that typically happen along with negotiations and also end of year to fund salaries. Is that correct?
Yes, Madam Chair, you're correct. So I think I mentioned before that the budget, the wage adjustment that I just spoke to regarding the police appropriation, this transfer will fund all of the departments that otherwise weren't funded yet with the accepted contracts.
All righty. Did anybody have any quick questions or concerns? All right. It's pretty much standard procedure. So if there are no comments or questions, I would entertain a motion.
So made.
All right. Motion to approve. Is that what you're going for, Dr. Bennett?
Yes.
Okay, motion to approve, Derek. All right. I will take the roll call. Ms. Sullivan?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Higgins?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Dr. Bennett?
Aye. Yes.
And then I am a yes as well. So that is 5-0 approved.
Thank you, everyone. So yeah, if you guys want to talk about the budget, amongst yourselves and then, talk about your priorities or send me some questions, schedule 1 meeting, 2 more meetings, 3 more meetings, however many meetings that you feel you want to put together and, be happy to walk you through all the budget packet that you have. So I appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Lori. I know you got to get going to your
Okay.
next meeting.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. Note here. And I unfortunately didn't see it. I wanted to thank the chief for also coming in, and I also saw that the council president left, so I didn't get a chance to thank him for coming to our meeting tonight. Carolyn, are you able to stick around? Is there anything that you need to share with us tonight on any of these items? The rest of our agenda?
I'm gonna hop off for just a minute to see if Lori needs me in that one or if she wants me to stay here. All
Okay.
right.
Alrighty, no worries. Thank you so much.
Yep. Thanks.
Okay. So in the meantime, folks, now that we've dealt with those other items, so we can now move on to the budget orders that we have before us, which would be items E, F, G, H, I, and I believe technically J as well. I'm just going to take a look at the count here, just make sure we have enough people for the meeting because it looks like we've had some folks depart. So it's me 1, John 2, Dana 3, Mark 4, Derek 5. Okay. So let's move on to the next one here. Order OFY 27-001 annual town budget. This is actually our first look at this. This is the item that was provided to the town council. I believe it was last week. Is that correct, Josh? Oh, you're on mute.
I'm sorry, I just joined a second ago.
Okay.
She,
So,
and not to interrupt the meeting, but Deborah Ward, the town council clerk, was waiting for the 4 items that you guys had referred at the last meeting. Did the other 2 items get voted?
The police contract got approved.
Yep.
The budget transfer got approved for that.
Okay.
And
What was the vote on that?
both were 5-0.
Okay.
And then I'm not sure if it matters, but let's see, let me just go back here. The acceptance of the grant was tabled by a vote of 5-0.
Okay. No, that's helpful. Okay, those are the only, they're just getting ready to start their meeting soon, so I just wanted to get that over to them, but I will, it was tabled or continued?
We motioned to table so we could get additional answers from the town manager.
Okay.
Okay.
We'll have to go through the process of taking it from the table, and I have to look into that for you guys.
Okay. All right.
Would it help if we amended the motion to a motion to continue?
That would be wonderful if you guys could do that.
Okay.
Motion to amend the motion to
So-
a motion to continue.
All right, so we have a motion to reverse the motion that we had previously on FY 26-057 for the acceptance of grant. So I hear a
Second.
motion made by Ms. Sullivan. Do I hear a second to that effect?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Higgins. Josh, can you do the roll call vote, please?
Sure. MJ,
Aye.
Mark,
Aye.
Dana,
Yes.
John,
Aye.
Derek.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion was approved, and thank you guys for doing that.
Yep, no problem. Sometimes the language can get a little confusing when we're deep in business and deliberation. So thank you for clarifying that. So the next items that we have are the FY 27 budget items, and I just wanted to get a little bit of clarification, Josh, just for members and also for the public in attendance. For the FY 27 stuff, because this has initially been given to the Budget and Finance Subcommittee, they're obviously asking their questions right now of Justin and Lori and also Carolyn. This is basically our first blush on this. If we're not being asked to actually make a final vote on this tonight to give advice on it. This is initially our first conversations.
Yep. So that was referred to you guys at last week's town council meeting, and because of us rescheduling, it just got thrown. I wanted to have it on here, just in case anybody wanted to take the opportunity to get their questions over to Lori or Justin. But yep, you guys can handle this one as you see fit.
Okay.
And I do believe Counselor Murphy was in our office today, and he had mentioned possibly scheduling a joint meeting to discuss these items.
Excellent, excellent. That is something I think the committee would thoroughly enjoy. I think members, I think we're all in agreement. We would like to have a little bit more of a closer linkage with our colleagues on the council subcommittee. So if y'all are okay with that, we can make that happen. I will take silence to be unanimous consent.
Oh, sure.
Certainly.
Yep.
All right.
And just a heads up, their meetings are in person, so that would be the format that we'd be doing.
Correct. All right, cool. And it would be in room 201A in the Academy building?
Yep.
Excellent. All right. So folks, just keep a reminder of that. If we do have joint meetings with the Budget and Finance Committee, they would likely end up being in conference room 201A. It's that big room on the second floor. Has a large dark wood table in there, and it can be hybridization, but it's usually best if everyone's in the room at the same time. So we'll move back to our conversation here on the first budget order, FY 27-001, FY 27 annual town budget. Like I said, this is a first blush for us. If folks want to share some of their initial reactions to it, thoughts, concerns, we can take a little bit of time on each one, and then obviously the best way of doing this would be the motion to continue each one. I'm guessing. Is that correct, Josh?
Yeah. Just to you don't need a motion to continue it.
Oh, okay.
You can just elect to continue it. Yeah, you don't have to go through that process.
So we could do it by unanimous consent. Just say we'll move on to the next one, then, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
I would just remind everybody if you guys could get questions to us via email, that way I can get it over to Lori and Justin so they can be prepared. But yeah, otherwise, just go through them.
All right, cool, excellent. So, folks, since we have the first one before us this evening, who wants to start off the conversation?
So I'll start it off as always. I'm always the quiet one in the crowd.
We appreciate you diving in, John. Thank you so much for getting us started.
Yeah, so I've listened to both the school and the town side, and we've had audits done, we've had reviews done, all this stuff. If you go and listen to Justin's presentation, we've got $30 million in compensation for the town, and we've got about 200 employees. I did the calculation, MJ, and the average pay package for a town employee is $192,000. That includes their benefits, everything that Justin included in there.
Mhm.
When we hear these auditors speak, they do not speak of any of the benefits. There's been no talk in any of the contracts about restructuring the benefits, but if you go study this thing, it is the benefits that are bankrupting this thing or that's pushing it over the edge. I shouldn't use the word bankrupting, but we're headed for either an override or a big reduction, just based on the fact health insurance is going up 10%, the pension is going up, and then now, for example, with the police, we just awarded a 5% pay raise. There's no way any of this is going to be covered under Prop 2.5. If I go back and listen to the school thing, we had questions for the school, and I don't think they ever got back to us on the number of headcount in their actual or in their budget, and then the number of teacher headcount in their budget or in their actual. There was some even discrepancy whether there were 330 teachers or 302 teachers. They think there's 500 and some odd employees, or there could be 600. So I did ask in that meeting for that information to come back, and I don't guess it's come back because I haven't seen the information, but they also said that the town of Bridgewater and Raynham, don't pay their employees enough. They don't pay their teachers enough, but we have to look at this from a total compensation standpoint. And if an average comp package or payout for the town is somewhere, I think 190 is high because there's some insurances in there and other things. But my calculation says it's somewhere in the $175,000 range. So if you go to the budget and you just say, well, we're going to reduce people's hours by 7%, that really doesn't do us any good structurally. We have to go do some structural change, or the only way to move forward is to continue to reduce the headcount or put it for an override. And the last override failed miserably. So I don't see any structural changes in what the town's done other than, a temporary reduction in hours. I don't think that's fair to the employees. So I do think that right out of the gate, this thing, we need to do something to change the trend here, both on the school side and the town side, or else we're headed for an override or cost reduction in a massive form. So that's my initial take on the whole thing.
Yeah, thank you, John. I appreciate that. I know for me, some of the stuff I was trying to look at, where could we actually make some reductions in the actual overall annual town budget itself. There were a couple things I actually wanted to share with Justin this evening, just because I don't think there's maybe at least one position that's not going to be filled as far as I'm aware of in the very near term. So that would be a considerable amount of savings and would likely reduce the average, if in some small part, by that particular amount. I would rather it be redistributed amongst staff so that we're not, we're still compensating them, but we're also still able to afford their benefits. So I was trying to look at some stuff that I have questions that I'll be asking later on when we have an additional conversation on this about where we can actually make some cuts in departmental expenses that can help us at least meet or at least get to achieve what you were referring to. Just because it's going to be a lot of difficult math we're going to have to do over the next few weeks to try to get this to work to make two ends connect together. So I'm definitely with you on that one. Did any other members have any questions just on this initial blush of the annual town budget?
I have one.
Sure, Ms. Sullivan, what you got?
Thanks. When was the last time we did a PEC for the town? I know the school just went through one.
So you're talking like the CLA group?
No, so I'm forgetting the acronym now. But basically to evaluate our health insurance, you have to form you form a committee because we have unionized staff. But you could look into joining the GIC or something else. And I know the our current group purchasing came in lower than anticipated and lower than most of the market, which is really good. But the GIC this year was only 7.5% increase, and so that does create significant savings. And so what these I'm butchering the acronym. I know it's a PEC, it's like a public employee commission maybe, but you can form one and evaluate for next year. So it wouldn't be time for this year, but we could evaluate options to make sure that we have the best bang for our buck on the benefits side. And so that might be worth pulling together, because I know the school committee just did one.
Yeah, I'm actually kind of curious about how it would work in our particular form of government, especially where we already do our insurance through a purchasing group as it is. I know where I was previously up in Marlboro, they had you're talking about an insurance advisory committee, or a public employee insurance committee. Marlboro had one for their union staffers. But that's also because the city itself was actually self-funded for their health benefits. So they had their own health insurance trust that they monitored, and that committee gave a vote or guidance to the city comptroller and the finance department and the mayor's administration with which to decide how they were going to tackle the costs that were increasing or not. I think where that ties into the actuarial study, I'm certainly curious if that's something that we could do here in town, where we're already part of a purchasing group. We're not self-funded. So I'm wondering if that's actually...
We're still self-insured, though, I think. We're self-insured through a group purchasing group. I just know other towns are going through this. There's a lot of group purchasing entities in the Commonwealth, and some are struggling and seeing really high increases. And so something that we could consider for next year is forming one of these committees.
I definitely wouldn't be averse to it. I think it is a good thing. What I would suggest, Dana, is send that question along.
Yeah, Josh, I'll email you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
Dana,
I'll get that over to Carolyn and Lori.
For my clarification, why would we have to wait a year to do this? And is it possible? I mean, when you go look at this from my standpoint, the school and the town could be an excellent purchasing consortium, but you can't put them together.
So this is where my knowledge is really limited. So Josh, please feel free to correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think because they're two separate entities, they would both have to have separate PECs because we're a regional school district, but the regional school district could choose to join a larger purchasing group. They could join the one that we're in, they could join the group insurance commission, but that would have to be their PEC, and there's like statutory representation. So all your unions have to be represented, as well as the school committee on theirs. I don't know what ours would look like. You'd have to wait a year because there's this whole process laid out in statute. So you have to make sure that you have the correct representation and that you check all the boxes before making a recommendation to the council.
But because I mean, the other portion that didn't get addressed in either of those audits or the consultants that came in and looked at this is the school has an unfunded liability for benefits of about $156 million, of which we're responsible for 65% of that, for example. So that means the town of Bridgewater has $100 million bill for the school unfunded, and then the town portion of it is $80 million. That's $180 million that's going to flow through the town in the next 15 to 20 years. I mean, we need to act like this thing is on fire. I mean, we don't have $180 million. We're out awarding pay raises, accepting 10% insurance increases, and we're not structurally changing any of the insurance out in the private sector. I mean, I do know that part. If you have a PPO, you pay for the difference. Everybody's on an HMO, but they're also on a high deductible plan, and it's a 60-40 split. So the first $4,000 is right out of the employee pocket, and that's what's going on out in the private world today. And then do we have that same, or are we even close here in the town part? Because we can't afford to continue at a 10 to 15% rate. Or have we eliminated some of the coverage on the drugs? I see some of the other towns with the weight loss drug, it's able to save them 2 or 3% straight away. I mean, we need to act like this thing is going into an emergency situation, which it is, in my mind. I know I'm speaking way too much here, but I just reviewed it and $180 million in debt, and not one consultant says anything about it except for all the other towns are in the same position. Well, that doesn't really matter much to me, but nobody wanted to address it. And we pay good money for them to look at it, and they all say, well, we don't pay our employees enough. Well, we've made promises that we can't afford to keep.
Valid points, John. And that is certainly something I think we should ask that question of the town manager. I add that to what Dana will submit as well. Having
And
those
the
types
school
of
one too, MJ, with the head counts, please.
oh yes, with the head counts on, yes.
Please, for effective full-time employees for 2026
Mhm.
and effective full-time teachers. And then what have they put into the 2027 budget?
Mhm.
And that same breakdown, if we could get that. I know the superintendent said he was going to get it to us, but that was, when did we meet? 3 weeks ago?
Sounds about right, yeah. Josh, did you ever get anything from Superintendent Powers for that?
Nothing to pass on recently, no.
All right.
But yeah, if you want to send it to me, MJ, I'll get it over to him and
So it's so FTEs for the school district and what the cost per each FTE is, correct, John?
Yeah, the average cost per FTE, and then I would like to see the breakdown so that we know what's admin and what's direct. To me, direct would be teachers or classroom facing, I guess.
Mhm.
I don't know what the lingo is in municipal or in school, whatever, but to me, direct labor would be those teachers and aides that are in the classroom, and everybody else would be administration. But if whatever breakdown they could give us with an explanation, that would be helpful.
All right. All right. I will try to convey that question along to the superintendent, and Josh, I'll copy you on that message.
perfect. And then once we get a response, I can get it to the committee.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Cool.
Because if we're coming down and they want another $8 or $9 million and we're still going to just add 10 positions, I mean, how would we ever get classroom sizes down on the school size? We don't even know where we are today. So,
Exactly.
I don't know how we make progress if we can't measure where we are today.
I think that's one of the things that I know some of us have expressed in meetings, especially when the superintendent has been here, that we'd like to get this type of information a little bit more granularly earlier in the process. It is something that I know I, as a member of the committee, but also as chair, would like to see us have that type of integration. It's difficult to do when it's a school district, but it is something that, I mean, we're kind of entitled to it since we're the ones basically writing the check for the school district. I think having that information makes our job a little bit easier, especially if we're trying to justify making those payments to the district and funding them. We should have that data. We should have that information. I totally agree with you on that one, John. Did any other members have any questions or comments? Okay.
I had one. This is for Justin, and I can send this over too. I want to know how we budget for snow and ice, because as I've been looking at historic budgets, I know this is like something they do at the state level too, where like everyone underfunds snow and ice, but it just seems like ours is like wildly underfunded every year, which just creates a gap for us down the line. And so wanted to just ask his rationale there, but can send that in an email.
That's a good question to ask, Dana. I can tell you actually, I think the smallest ever, just for fun fact for everyone here, I think the smallest we ever funded the snow and ice budget line item, I want to say was probably like FY 2005 or FY 2006, and I think the line item itself was like $75,000, and that winter ended up being like 690 grand or something. So we've funded it for much smaller than what we've done the last 2 years, but you're right, it is historically underfunded. So definitely send along those questions, and Justin can give us that
And then
detail.
just one more along those same lines. I know Massachusetts is applying for federal aid associated with the winter storms, and I wanted to know if Bridgewater has been in touch with MEMA to get ourselves on that list if funding's available.
Yeah, with that definitely, Dana, add that as your question as well. I think those are good questions, especially where because I'm not sure if the federal government actually declared a disaster declaration, because usually we hear about that, right, Josh? If we got that.
Yeah, there would have been a posting for that.
Okay. All right. Yeah, definitely send that along. Mark, Derek, did you guys have any questions?
I think MJ and Josh, I
Sorry.
think MEMA's in process of putting together the application for the federal declaration of
Oh.
emergency, which is why it would be helpful if we got in now because they can beef up their application with our costs.
Okay. All right. All right. Okay.
Yeah,
Excellent.
just to add a blanket thing, obviously, I'm not thrilled about Park and Rec being cut back, and I think that's a given, but I don't think we can just do a blanket cut of all the departments all the way through, because they're affected. Number of employees affects departments differently. You get departments that have 3 or more employees, then you can start taking a look at things, but maybe somebody can be cut back, an individual employee. Perhaps we eliminate positions in some departments that have multiple employees, but a blanket cut for all departments is not an answer here.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas. Yes, Dr. Bennett?
Apologies for interrupting, but I'm actually interested in finding out the 2 most critical parts of the benefits package. One is the pension and the other is the insurance. What I am most interested in finding out about is how do we determine the insurance? Is there a certain standard that we apply? Do we shop around on what is available, similar to what most residents may do, or what small business does? And is it possible to make changes in the provider or the plans that we may be able to provide our employees? For the most part, I'm kind of thinking something that John had talked about was, especially like prescriptions. Are there certain services we're providing that don't seem to be as essential versus those that may be most critical for some people? I'd like to find out a little bit more on that. If Josh may be able to provide that at some point, would be very helpful.
Okay. So it sounds more like an a la carte approach that you're looking at, correct, Dr. Bennett?
Yes.
Okay.
Because there are some folks, there may be parts with weight management. There may be something more for people with heart conditions or such, specifically focusing to different conditions or circumstances that affect themselves and their family, mental health services, et cetera, et cetera. Somebody might find that more important than others. Is there a means that we can kind of make that accessible to those who would need it the most, rather than have to pay for a whole bunch of things somebody else may not need?
Right. So also looking at probably the tiered policies, like say for instance, if because I know a municipality I worked in, they had basically 4 different types of Blue Cross Blue Shield or WellPoint, and another company called WellPoint, and they had like 4 different grades of it. One was like a high deductible, one was a low deductible, one was it covered GLP-1 medications, which would be the weight reduction. Others had more of a discount for health and wellness as an added benefit to it. Those are certainly questions. So I would encourage you, Derek, to write those out and send that along to Josh, because I think Carolyn would probably be best to answer that from the HR perspective. With a little familiarity that I have with how MMHG has offered the plans, they usually negotiate with the bigger insurers that I'm aware of. I believe Harvard Pilgrim, Blue Cross Blue Shield, I think United Healthcare, and I want to say that Aetna was an option way back, but I don't want to give certainty on that. My memory is a little hazier after 10 to 15 years, but it is one of those things that they do tend to look at what the program policies offer for folks, what the overall value would be per participant.
Right.
But I'll defer to the HR director on that, because there's probably some stuff that's changed since the last time I had my hands on information from MMHG directly. So definitely send those questions along to Carolyn in HR, and
I
actually
shall.
send them to Josh. He'll get them to Carolyn.
Certainly.
Yeah, I think it'd be good to get Carolyn in here and have her do a deep dive on the benefits and just be able to answer those questions. So that's
Certainly.
perfect. Get those questions to me. That way she can prep the numbers and their process and everything, and we'll see about getting her scheduled with you guys.
Okay. Thank you. Mhm.
All right. So if that's all we have right now for the annual town budget item, we can move on to budget order FY 27-002. That would be FY 27 Water Enterprise Fund. So for folks who are more newer to the budget process here in Bridgewater, because we have enterprise funds, we actually address each one separately. While they are part of the total overall budget, they are voted on separately, and we've been doing that as long as we've had enterprise funds. In years past, we had the water, the sewer, the transfer station, and up until in the last few years, we also had the golf course as well. So the Water Enterprise Fund, that being appropriated, funds the water system and all of the items that are associated with that, including, I believe, staff and infrastructure, operational costs. Let's just go back into the item here. Yeah. So it looks like that is there, and then so this is basically it from the separate side of it. So this is actually the exact enterprise fund itself for water. And then the next one up would be sewer and then transfer station. So if folks do have any questions, we can definitely ask them right now. And if there are more detailed questions, I would recommend strongly sending them to Justin. So to Josh, so he can send them to Justin. Do any members have any questions this evening or items that they find of interest on this?
I do. I all three of them across the way. So I do know that the town, especially the town, well, everybody in the town has spent a lot of time on the water and sewer issues. Yet the amount of money that we're charging out for the administrative time spent by the town back, charging back to the water and sewer doesn't reflect any change in that from the prior year. I don't understand that. So back to my previous questions, do we understand what our costs are per employee and how do they come up with this assessment? Because I know it's just moving stuff around, but if we can move, if we're spending all the effort and the expenses over on the town side, and it is for the water and sewer issues, then we should be moving them over there and putting it into the billing rate as appropriate. The other thing too is there seems to be some question whether we have an increase on the transfer station pricing. And I don't understand what the thought process is behind that because we haven't had an increase in 3 years. Yet electricity, payroll, health benefits have all gone up and they're supposed to be operating on a standalone basis. So we need to charge them more for that. And therefore the prices do need to go up. If I go look at where we stand today, I'd love Lori to give us an idea. Are we break even at the transfer station? You know, I do know what she talked about a change coming up, but we doesn't matter. We need to go charge what the services cost, and we need to understand in all three funds what those costs are, including the administrative part.
Yeah, especially and we'll obviously move on to that one, but I agree with you. What the cost breakout is in all of these on these particular items, how it actually pans out to what each one's going to actually break out as to actual direct and indirect costs. It's great to see it be for indirect costs for water, it's 419,018. Exactly what are those indirect costs? What's the exact dollar amount for each of those that comes up to that cumulative total? I think that's a good start point, and I know it probably sounds like a broken record at this point, but John, definitely send that set of questions there. I know Josh has made note of them as well, but definitely send it to him, and we'll get those answers hopefully from Justin and Laurie. I definitely want to acknowledge that that's something that we need to know about, especially if we're going to be taking a vote on it. To the point of the transfer station, I think another question that should go into that, just as an aside, I think we should see exactly what the fee structure is and see what the comparative what the comparative income and cost of it has been the last 3 or 4 fiscal years to give us some perspective. If they haven't changed that much, are we actually, is it a rule of minimizing returns, as it were? Are we having less people use the transfer station in that regard? Are we having less people pay? Are people going elsewhere to dispose of their garbage or household waste? That's certainly something I'd like to see as well. But I'll send my questions along as well. Did anybody have any, getting back to what we are speaking about specifically, it's the water enterprise, did any other members have any questions or on first blush on this? Okay.
Really?
Yes, Dr. Bennett?
Oh, no, I was saying, no, not really.
Okay. All right. Well, in any case, folks, for this one, again, if you do have any additional questions on it, please send them to Josh. We'll get the answers for him, and hopefully we'll get them by our next meeting. Great. So we will move on to the next one. Order FY 27-003 and Sewer Enterprise Fund, same situation, just like with the water. I think John's questions remain germane to this one as well. So we'll carry that forward, unless any other members have additional questions that they'd like to at least, be known. Okay. So again, if anybody has questions, but they don't know what they want to ask right now, send them along to Josh. Right. So we will move on to the next one. I think, and this is the next one, Order FY 27-004, FY 27 Transfer Station Enterprise Fund. Again, I think some of our conversation partially between John and I think covers it. I'd certainly like to see what the trending is on the actual fee structure and what our revenues have looked like there to cover this enterprise fund, and to see what the breakout of those costs are from the last fiscal years, just to see if there's a trend up or a trend downward, if we're getting more out of it or we're getting less out of it. Because that will certainly inform how we move forward with the transfer station, whether it's an increase of rates or if we keep them steady again, or we reduce service. So I think those are certainly points and questions that folks could have as well. So if no one has any questions on that, we'll move on to the next item. I believe that is. I didn't hear anybody ask any questions, correct? Okay. All right. So the next one is, let's see, on the authorization of revolving funds FY 27-005. And I think for this, so the town has various revolving funds, just so for newer members. We have revolving funds that are for specific departments for their use specifically in their departments. So the town clerk has one, recreation department has one, council on aging has one, and the library has one. Typically, they're for receipts that they have from purchases of, in the case of the town clerk's office.
Excuse me, Madam Chair. I'm really sorry. I have to drop, and when I drop, you'll lose quorum. I'm so sorry, everyone. I'm so appreciative of all the time.
Okay. All right. Josh, so Ms. Sullivan has exited for the evening.
Yep. So I'm gonna go ahead and stop the recording. Unfortunately, because